Morning, today is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, convening the 8 AM agenda. Today set here at the Hawaii State Capitol in Conference Room 430. For this morning's agenda on the 8 o'clock, we just have one measure for discussion before us, and that is HB 2021 relating to transportation. Members, HB 2021 relating to transportation establishes safe riding behaviors for electric bicycles, prohibits the operation of high-speed electric devices in certain locations. Beginning December 31st, 2026, establishes labeling and signage requirements for electric bicycles, prohibits the operation of a moped or electric motorcycle in certain locations, amends the definition of bicycle for purpose of counting vehicular taxes, defines electric bicycle and place a low-speed electric bicycle, defines electric micro-mobility device, it requires the same regulations as electric foot scooters, prohibits a person under age of 16 from operating a class 3 electric bicycle, authorizes a person under the age of 14 to operate a class 2 electric bicycle under supervision, prohibits a person from riding a class 3 electric bicycle on a sidewalk, authorizes a person to ride a class 1 or class 2 electric bicycle on a sidewalk under certain circumstances, prohibits a person from operating a bicycle or electric foot scooter under the age of 18 without a helmet, repeals the requirement that moped drivers use bicycle lanes, substitutes the term motor driven cycle with the term motor scooter. Vice Chair for testimony, please.
Department of Transportation in support. DCCA Insurance Division Insurance Commissioner Scott Psyche with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jamie Yamamoto, appearing on behalf of the DCCA Insurance Division. So given the evolving nature of these devices and their power, function, and form, as well as the variety, the division just seeks clarifying language on whether insurance will be required for electric bicycles, just to avoid any potential ambiguities or gray areas later on. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Hawaii Police Department in support. City and County of Honolulu Council Member Dos Santos Tam in support. City and County of Honolulu Department of Transportation Services in support. Lupono Initiative in support. AAA Hawaii in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Eduardo Hernandez with the Hawaii Bicycling League. You have in my written testimony a couple of recommendations that we have that we think could make the bill a little more clear. And I just wanted to address also with respect to the insurance requirement, we appreciate the DCCA's remarks on that. And as we've been going through this process, we've been trying to put like devices alike, and motor scooters are vehicles that go faster than 30 miles an hour, and that's faster than the electric bicycle class that we're having in here. So we do agree that there should be clarity for that, and that the clarity is bicycles don't need licenses or insurance. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hawaii State Teachers Association in support. Charles Cox in support.
Good morning. Thank you for hearing this bill. I strongly support it. This place has become the Wild West, like a lot of the United States and probably the world. There are a lot of great new small motorized vehicles that I support in general because they save putting out carbon dioxide, and we really have a climate problem, I believe, which is certainly related to this. But this has really become the Wild West. Probably most of you have seen little kids come zipping out around a corner on the sidewalk with some high-speed motorized vehicle. It's crazy. So in general, I mean, I really do support it, and I thank you for hearing this. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also got 6 individuals in support and 1 in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2021?
Sorry, we may have skipped over Department of Transportation. He is in the Zoom call.
Oh, okay. Department of Transportation in support, Director?
Yeah, Chair, Vice Chair, members, Ed Snippet with Hoy DOT, we stand in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Director. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify? Seeing none.
Thank you. DCC, I have a question. So I think that definitely as of right now, the intent of the legislation before us is to make sure that the codified classes that we're seeking to define do not have to carry insurance, but there are other, to Hawaii Bicycling League's testimony, the devices that go faster than the classified, so those 30, they do need to have insurance.
Yes, so my understanding is right now bicycles are not required to have insurance under the insurance code. As far as under the insurance code, Article 10C requires motor vehicles. And then Articles 10G requires motor scooters and then motorcycles, both of which are faster and more powerful and have different definitions from from bicycles, which is what the electric bicycles would be classified under this bill.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. HPL, please. So noting DCCA's testimony, what are the other devices that have to carry insurance, just for the members' understanding?
Motor scooters and motorcycles, I believe, devices that go higher than 30 miles an hour. Also, with respect to bicycles, I don't believe there is an insurance provider in the state that offers insurance for electric bicycles.
Motor scooters and are those like the 2-foot ones?
Motor scooters,
Or legitimately just the electric motor?
motor scooters are, they have floorboards and you can stand on them.
That one.
Yeah. And they go 30 miles an hour or faster, and that was the difference.
Okay,
Thank you.
Members, any other questions?
I have a question.
Rep Morocco.
Possibly.
Hawaii Bicycle League.
And this is just so I understand correct. Bicycles, do they use only the bike path when they're on the roads, or do they use the same roads as vehicles?
So bicycles can use, if there's a bike lane, they're supposed to use the bike lane. If there's not a bike lane, they are allowed to use the road.
Cause the bicycles get just as crazy, right? You see them, I was just in Waikiki this weekend for an event and they get ridiculous. So knowing that, if they're gonna be able to use the same roads as the vehicles, and knowing that they also cause accidents, shouldn't we have some type of,
So the vast majority of accidents are caused by cars.
well,
They're not caused by bicycles.
one can argue because the accident could be caused by that bicycle jolting out like he did from in front of us this weekend, and I had 3 juveniles in the back of my vehicle, so I had to jam on the brake. So one can argue that, you know, it can go both ways. So if they're gonna be able to use the same roads as a vehicle, you know, they get pretty careless at times.
We don't require insurance for people who walk in the street and cross the street.
They're crossing in a crosswalk.
Okay,
That's my argument. If they're in the bike lane and they're staying to that lane of travel, but if they're gonna be able to use the same roads, wouldn't you think they should carry some type of?
I don't think so. We really focus on teaching good, safe behavior, and that's what this bill helps to do, is to identify what's safe behavior and unsafe behavior. You know, we don't tolerate it at the Bike League on any of our events, and we certainly don't condone it on the part of the public, on members of the public to do it. Unsafe riding behavior is unsafe for everyone. It's unsafe for the person who's on the bicycle. It's unsafe for people who may be near that person. But I don't think it's an insurance, that insurance will fix that problem.
Wait, I'm gonna interject. So as of right now, there are no carriers for these classifications of electric bicycles. I would foresee that something will come in the future. So but I think to Eduardo's point, I think to your point, Rep, the struggle we've been facing in the interim is that it are the bad actors, right? The non-conforming, the non-road legal folks that are really jeopardizing people. So I think when we adopt a measure today, the intent is to not have insurance requirements because there is no insurance provider. But I wouldn't doubt within the next year that something would come forward. But I think to your point, to Eduardo's point, he's trying to make sure that we can advocate for safe roads for all. But to your point, there is no doubt. I think we can all agree that there are bad actors in the same way of drivers and the same way of operators. So I hope when we adopt this, if we can get a path forward, we can start to root out the bad actors.
And if I may just add one little point, so not everything is fixed in legislation. And Hawaii Bicycling League has put forward a grant and aid request so that we can do more education and raise awareness about safe riding behavior in more venues. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Members, any other questions? Okay, at this time, I'd like to recess. Reconvening Thursday, February 10th, 2026 AM agenda for the Committee on Transportation for the measures before us of HB 2021. Members, I would like to, sorry, before we move forward, I just wanna thank the many hands that touched this important piece of legislation from both the Department of Transportation, the Attorney General, advocates like Hawaii Bicycling League and many others. I wanna add context that this was a bill that we had passed last year at the legislature that unfortunately was vetoed due to a technicality. So in the interim, it was the directive of both Department of Transportation and Attorney General to make sure we had agreed upon language so that this year we wouldn't face the same challenge. I don't think it's a secret in the interim, many communities that you folks represent have faced this challenge of trying to find a path forward to allow safe regulation of bicycles that belong on our roadway and a path forward to take those vehicles or devices off our roadways. I wanna acknowledge the counties in the interim for working with the rules that they've had in place to do the best that they could. I wanna acknowledge Honolulu Police Department as they've worked expeditiously in District 8 and a lot of other communities alike to try to make our roads just that much more safer. So members, the intent today, I don't wanna do substantive amendments, but I wanna adopt the HD one. So I wanna clarify that nothing in this section shall be construed to require insurance requirements for the operation of road legal, permitted and classified electric bicycles per DCCA, and I wanna make that clear. I wanna also make it clear that other electric mobility devices that are road legal may be subject to applicable insurance requirements as noted in the testimony, but for the purpose of codifying and classifying classes 1, 2, and 3 electric bicycles, they are not subject to insurance requirements at this time. I will note that there are no operators in the state that provide some form of insurance, but I do foresee that in the near future, as we start heading towards a more structured path of regulation, that it probably will happen. So, but at this time, that's the committee's intent. I wanna amend HRS 249-1 to ensure consistency in the tax treatment and classifications across all counties to make sure that these definitions are updated accordingly. I wanna clarify that all properly classified electric bicycles may operate on sidewalks with restrictions of 10 miles per hour or less. I wanna also add that county ordinance may clarify and further reasonable restrictions. I wanna clarify that high-speed electric devices as codified in the bill and other non-conforming devices shall not be operated on our public roadways. And I just wanna make it clear, in the legislation, we've exempted devices from that clarity that electric vehicles are not considered a high-speed electric device and other road-conforming vehicles, that was the concern last year. I wanna clarify that any county or state law enforcement officer or designated official pursuant to HRS 249-15 may impound any non-road legal, non-conforming electric bicycle or high-speed electric device, as well as any device required to be registered that is not properly registered. I wanna adopt language to providing that no person under 16 shall operate a class 2 or 3 electric bicycle unless under direct supervision of a parent or guardian. I know that was flagged and I agree, just for consistency. So trying to make sure that I acknowledge that this is a way to get folks to and from their areas safely, but when we think about age, when you are lower than 16, I would say operating a 2 or 3 as we codify is potentially dangerous. I wanna confirm terminology throughout the measure to include on page 14 that all cross-references ensure the consistent use of defined terms. I wanna provide that the labeling, signage, and public information requirements for electric bicycles set forth in section 2 shall take effect 120 days after the enactment of this legislation or earlier upon rule adoption. I want HMSO to affect the effective date and technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Rep. Evan.
Chair, I just wanna thank you for all your work on this bill. I appreciate your passion for the subject. I think that, as we all know, electric bicycles are a critical tool to help people get around, especially those who cannot afford a car and younger people, but we need a clear regulatory framework to make sure that they're safe. So I appreciate you doing your work on this over the interim, and hopefully we can get this bill through and pass it all out this session.
Yes. Rep. Chico.
I echo Rep. Evslin's comments, just wanted to mahalo you, Chair, for all of your hard work on this measure. I know how it felt when we got so close last year and almost made it through. But due to technical issues, we had to, and possibly to even make the bill much more stronger. But now that we are able to do this, really our goal is to have 0 fatalities on the road. And we've waited far too long to regulate this, as well as it gives us a tool on the enforcement side to be able to not just educate, but also properly enforce the rules of the road. So thank you so much again, Chair, for all your hard work on this.
Thank you. This measure has haunted me in the interim in the best way that I now know more than I ever wanted to. But I want to also applaud the Department of Education in the interim adopting a blanket reform to make sure that those students are safe, and I hope this gives them a path forward to have some safety within the school. So I just everyone has worked in the interim without a framework. So as I think I've told many folks, if we can adopt this as our foundation, we can build structure moving after. But right now, we're trying to build a house without foundation. So this is our foundation legislation. So I thank you folks for that. So seeing no further questions, comments, or concerns, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2021, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Cochran excused. Representative Evslin.
Aye.
Representative Grandinetti.
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa.
Aye.
Representative Lachika.
Aye.
Representative Muraoka.
Aye.
Representative Pirri. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Okay, members, we're gonna adjourn this one. I'm gonna gavel into 8:01, and that is just for the purpose of decision making. Thank you. Convening the 8:01 agenda for the Committee on Transportation, February 10, 2026 at 8:01 AM for the purpose of decision making only on this agenda item before us. Members, HB 1641, which is related to transportation, prohibits the sale, offer, lease, rental, distribution, possession, or operation of a high-speed electric bicycle, establish penalties. So I wanted to defer DM for this one to allow us to move the foundation legislation and this at the same time. Cause I think I understand what the author is trying to do, and I think from my understanding, the author is really trying to further expand the provisions and restrictions on high-speed electric devices as we've codified. I don't think the author is trying to restrict bicycle purchases, but I think he's looking at the framework of the non-conforming one. So members, what I would like to do is I'd like to adopt the HD1. So I wanna clarify that the legislation is to prohibit any person from offering for lease or rent of any high-speed electric device as outlined in HB 2021. I wanna require that any person selling or offering for sale a high-speed electric device as defined in HB 2021 comply with all applicable regulatory requirements established under that act. I wanna prohibit that the operation of high-speed electric devices are, to be clear, are prohibited on any bicycle lane, highway, roadway, or street. I wanna establish a penalty of not less than $250 and no more than $1,000 for violations of this section, and clarify that in the legislation, I wanna keep that every violation of a section is individual violation. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and then HMSO to defect the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1641, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Cochran is excused. Representative Evslin.
Aye.
Representative Grandinetti.
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa.
Aye.
Representative Lachika.
Aye.
Representative Muraoka.
Aye.
Representative Pirri. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. I will see you at 9:30. Morning, convening the House Committee on Transportation for our 9:30 AM agenda today, February 10, 2026, at the Hawaii State Capitol in conference room 430. I just wanna go over just normal housekeeping rules. Given the testimony that came in today, we're gonna start trying to ask folks to convene to the 2-minute timer. This is our pilot behind us, if you folks can watch the clock, and then I know folks online, we will do our best as well. We have to adjourn before floor session, so please know that testimony will be considered. As you folks know, we've been trying to constitute having things released to you folks in a timely manner, and I wanna thank the staff on both committees of transportation and housing for having those things move forward. And I would be just remiss to not thank the support staff and my staff that worked yesterday amidst the weather conditions to make sure that we could move today's hearings as smoothly as possible. And so I wanna thank them for their support and all that they do for the legislature. If you're disconnected, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting, and then a network failure may be necessary to reschedule. Please don't use trademark copyrighted images for folks on Zoom. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Just a reminder, please address your comments to the committee. And if anything, we'll reschedule if we need to, and we'll file those notices appropriately. So we have several measures today on the agenda before us. If we could start with our first measure, HB 1709. Relating to water carriers, transfers the jurisdiction of the Hawaii Water Carrier Act from the Public Utilities Commission to the Department of Transportation, makes conforming amendments and appropriates funds. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Department of Transportation, we stand on our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
DCCA with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, Member. Mickey Knox for the Division of Consumer Advocacy. I just want to clarify one part of our written testimony. On the second page, the third to the last full paragraph. At the end of that, it says, without that tie, there is no provision in Chapter 271G that expressly allows for or requires consumer protection. That might not be precisely accurate because keeping water carriers in the definition of public utilities in 269(1) may still preserve the consumer advocate's jurisdiction to represent its ratepayers, even in front of agencies other than the PUC, if it's the Department of Transportation. But the larger point of this paragraph is that taking out that tie to 269 that's currently in 271G3, it would take out a lot of aspects that are currently used to regulate water carriers. 271G is not a complete section for the regulation of water carriers. Just like the rules for water carriers without 16601 are not necessarily complete. Now, the PUC has pointed out in its testimony that the Department of Transportation does not necessarily have to use the same quasi-judicial process that is fleshed out in HAR 16601. So the department could choose to make different rules for different procedures. But the point is that right now, the regulation of water carriers depends a lot on 269 and HAR 16601, and so the department would have to figure out a lot. Okay. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Utilities Commission with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, we stand on our written testimony offering comment. Available for any questions that we may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Food Industry Association in support.
Are they online?
No.
Not present. Maritime Group with comments. Young Brothers in support.
I'll say, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chris Nakagawa on behalf of Young Brothers. We stand on our written testimony supporting the intent, and I just wanted to make a comment that just wanted to just express my appreciation for the introducers of this measure, because I think it's important to note that the water carrier regulation is outdated. It's old, it's flawed, and it should be fixed. And so this, I appreciate bringing this to the forefront, and there needs to be further discussion to fix this so we can be all sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Young Brothers David, is he on Zoom?
Hi, yeah, this is David. I echo Chris Nakagawa's comments that he just gave. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1709? Chair.
Thank you. PUC, I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, Chair.
Can you currently clarify what PUC regulates?
We regulate all of the things we regulate. Okay, so motor cars by 271G or 271, sorry. Water carriers as contemplated in this measure. Electric utilities, gas utilities, telecom very minorly after the Telecoms Act. Partially deregulated, water and waste private water and private wastewater.
So we did transfer some motor carrier authority to DOT, right?
For enforcement, I believe.
But other than that, you folks still have that regulation.
We still do the tariffs and some of the administrative items on motor carrier.
So I don't think this conversation is going away. So I think I don't think you can necessarily speak, and I'm okay if you cannot answer this, but I mean, I think this continues to come up on the conversation because I want to acknowledge, I think you folks have made headway on regulation on those parts, but this water carrier and motor carrier thing continues to come up because I think the users aren't feeling that the PUC is giving that attention. So as this discussion comes up, it's been the PUC's position that you folks are okay relinquishing these things.
Well, I wouldn't say okay per se, but we will assist with any transfer of the powers. So, if all of the stakeholders choose for this to occur, we will be cooperative and we will work with DOT and other stakeholders through a 2-year process to do this transition.
2 years is the number you folks feel comfortable
We
with.
believe we can get all of this done in 2 years. It's a monumental task. We recognize that, but that's why we are saying probably 2 years. And again, it's contingent on if all the stakeholders agree and this is what they want, and then also we'll help DOT to stand up the system and the type of authority they want. We recognize a commission like us may not be suitable for DOT to be running in their own facility as like a maritime commission. Maybe they can talk more about what they would like to set up, but I certainly don't want to put them on the spot. We've got to talk about it. We're trying to find the best possible solution for all the stakeholders involved that will get the right amount of customer protection. As the representative from the consumer advocate points out, and to make sure it works for the users and the utilities that would be involved in this.
Okay. Does anybody else have a question for DCCA? I mean, PUC. I have a question for DOT about the motor carrier enforcement, if potentially could speak to it. So, since you folks have the motor carrier enforcement, how has that been in conjunction with or conflict that they still have the regulation? Would you be able to speak to it?
Larry Dill is online, so if I can
Larry?
phone a friend.
Good morning, Chair Aquila. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to refer.
You may repeat the question. So I was asking Tammy, Deputy Director Lee, that knowing you folks have the motor carrier enforcement, what has been the conflict or I guess process knowing that you only have that part and the regulatory exists still under PUC?
Morning, Chair Aquila. I'm afraid I would have to defer this and get back to you on that.
Okay.
I can speak to it a little. So since we've been given the authority for enforcement, I mean, we really rallied and we created, positions to take care of the enforcement. So I think we are managing it. I don't know that the delineation between, anything else that the PUC kind of has under their authority. But for us, I mean, we would just kind of use the authority for rulemaking and kind of figure it out.
Okay. If there's anything else that legislatively would need support, could you just follow up with the committee?
Yes.
I think that's been the conversation.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy. Members, any other further questions? Thank you, DOT. Thank you, PUC. Members, like to move to the next measure before us, HB 2195 relating to transportation, requires Department of Transportation to assess a per passenger head fee against cruise ships docking in the state's commercial harbors, establishes the cruise special fund, repeals existing law imposing the transit accommodations tax on cruise ships, effective retroactive to January 1st, 2026. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Morning, Chair and Vice Chair. Department of Transportation is in strong support. We understand that this measure attempts to address the ongoing litigation between the cruise industry represented by CLIA and the state of Hawaii. So it, I think, accomplishes two things. One is resolving these legal matters, and second is generating additional revenue that the cruise ships already contribute when they arrive here, but it deposits it into a special fund that would be expended by DOT on matters that somewhat align with the green fee original objectives. Available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you. Department of Taxation with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Garrison for Department of Transportation will stand on our written comments.
Wait, Department of Transportation?
Taxation.
Oh, taxation. I was like, we got a new position.
Attorney General's office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Yvonne Shinmura, Deputy Attorney General. We submitted comments and made the points within the written testimony. I'm available for any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Hawaii Tourism Authority with comments. McCabe, Hamilton in support. Hike Maui in support. Honolulu Ship Supply in support. Not present. The Maritime Group in support. Go Tours Hawaii in support. Climate Future Forum in support. COW in support. And 22 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on this measure?
Aloha, Melissa Pavlicek on behalf of the Hawaii Harbors Users Group. We submitted some written testimony in support. I just wanted to note that we were here and make sure that you had received it.
Thank you.
I can resubmit or bring it by your office.
We'll double check, but I think your testimony was submitted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Tina Yamaki with the Hawaii Transportation Association. We stand on our comments and we feel that this is a very clear, fair, and workable solution to address the fees issue. Mahalo.
Thank you, Tina.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Maxime Imanot. I own Honolulu Ship Supply. So we supply cruise ships. We help a lot of local farmers, local fishermen distribute their local products to cruise ships coming to Hawaii. And so we stand in support of this bill. We submitted a written testimony, so we stand behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee, Chair, Vice Chair. Sandy Weir with Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. I stand in support with my testimony as written and am available for any questions.
Thank you, Sandy. Please come forward.
I want to thank the Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee members. My name is Fred Atkins. We have a family business on Kauai. It's called Kilohana Plantation. And we employ 245 people. And we also have a lot of lease spaces at Kilohana, which creates with the shops, the luau, and some of our tours, is additional about 150 people that are employed. I would say all of them are either directly or indirectly supported by the benefits of the cruise industry. And we do a lot of business with the ships that come in on a daily basis when they're either leaving Alaska or they're coming back out of Alaska and repositioning. And there's a lot I could comment on. I know we all have a short time frame to present here, but I want to tell you one thing that's happening to me on Kauai. A lot of individual smaller businesses, because I've been in this business with them for about 18 years. They said if Act 96 actually goes in the favor of the state, some of the ships are saying they might leave. And what do you think? I said, I'm not here on behalf of CLIA or Norwegian Cruise Line, although full disclosure, I am on the lawsuit with Act 96. And I did that to protect my employees and give them a voice in this matter. So for you, if we can pass this from the committee, then it'll give it the proper vetting that needs to be done over the legislative session, and all stakeholders involved, including the small businesses and businesses like myself that really depend on this. But I can tell you from the past fact about what happens when a ship can't find an economic reason or ROI to be here. We were approached by NCL about 18 years ago, and we were only 10 minutes from the harbor, and they said, if you expanded your luau facility up to 800 people, we would like to do the luau every time these 3 ships were in Hawaii at the time came into port. And it was a good opportunity for us. I said, as long as you let us create a show that will cast, we'll do the facility. And so we did, and it took about a year, and we still have a great show that was developed 18 years ago. But the night that we opened, NCL representative sat us down and said, this was 2008 during the major recession. And they say one of our ships is leaving Hawaii in 30 days. We don't see the booking trend to support it, so we're taking the ship out. And this is after we did everything we did to open. But we felt, you know, actually kind of blessed we had 2 ships during a recession because it was a lot of business, right? And then about 3 months after that,
Sorry, Mr. Atkins, could you summarize?
After that, one of the cruise ships, the captain got a message that was going to be his last cruise. They were repositioning that ship, and so we lost 2 ships within 4 months. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I really appreciate you guys moving this bill forward, I hope, so it can be vetted and it can be a good process and hopefully a win-win situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I'll open up questions after.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, Committee, the testify sheet was out of order, so I do have Hawaii Harbors Users Group in support, Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings in support, Mr. Atkins Kauai Kilohana Plantation in support, Polynesian Adventure Tours in support.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. And I want to apologize. I'm pretty embarrassed about cut and paste, but our testimony has the wrong committee on there. If you'd like, we can revise it and send a new copy in. And if not, well, it's you guys. So, but I'm Jamie Barut, born and raised in Hawaii. I've worked in the visitor industry for. My testimony says 20 years or more, plus 20 years, but it's been about 45 years, which dates me. I'm Vice President of Operations, and we have about 340 employees across the state, Kauai, Maui, Oahu, and Hawaii Island. We're here in strong support of HB 2195. We believe that, our cruise ship has given so many opportunities to our local people. We also provide a lot of business to our smaller vendors, such as Millie's and Hilo provides box lunches and things like that, making their business a lucrative one with not just the local folks. We also, we're in support of it because we transfer our visitors with motor coaches, minibuses, reducing traffic on the highways, but also taking them into places that we are mindful about as a community. So we don't take them to the places that we should not be in, and so forth. The cruise industry has just been a huge part of our business, employing our employees, and we'd like to just reiterate we're in strong support of HB 2195. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Aloha. Yes. The Tax Foundation of Hawaii stands on its written comments. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Show You Hawaii in support. Care for Aina Now Coalition with comments. Hawaii Pilots Association in support. Hawaii Transportation Association, Tina testified. Thank you. And Matson Navigation in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 2195? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Deputy Director Khalili. If you could clarify, you folks have requested amendment.
Yes, in our written testimony, we request a series of amendments. One of which is we ask the committee to consider increasing the per head fee from $6.50 to $10. Generally speaking, each year we see about 1 million visitors. So if you just multiply the fee, $10 million we can do something with. $6 million a year, there's not a lot we can do when we think of like the big infrastructure that can. And the bill also cites shore power. Right, going $6 million at a time, we may not get there for several years. In addition, we want to clarify that the fee that is proposed in this legislation is in addition to fees that cruise ships and passengers already pay, and those fees are already set forth in our administrative rules, and those are the key high points of our.
Deputy, can you just clarify for the committee the shore power that you just mentioned or potential future plans for shore power?
Sure. So in a lot of ports that have emission reduction strategies and goals and targets in place, shore power is an option where the port will provide the infrastructure necessary for a ship when it is at berth to turn off its engines and not emit stuff, to plug into the infrastructure, and then it is powered by electricity. And so we have not pursued that because it is prohibitively expensive. But if we have this revenue stream, it is something that we're certainly open to looking into.
And so clarifying, right, is that other cruise ships or vessels that come in, they already have the technology for shore power. This would actually allow them to adopt shore power use.
Not to say it's the industry, but our understanding is a significant portion of ships, of cruise ships are equipped with that technology that they can do, they can plug into shore power infrastructure. And I believe there's an IMO requirement that by 2050, someone correct me if I'm wrong, all ships will have to plug in.
Sandy's nodding her head. So I would ask you this, and if you feel it's deferrable to either Sandy folks or DOTAX, because it's retroactive, we would have to work individually with the companies on what that assessment would have been if this was done previously.
I think that's my read of the bill, right? So whatever was incurred from January 1, 2026 until this goes into effect, we would collect retroactively. And if we need to create some kind of payment plan to collect that, I think DOT, we are amenable to figuring that out with each of the carriers or each of the lines.
If I could ask Sandy to come forward, just for a clarifying question. And so I'm not gonna ask you specifically about the lawsuit, and I don't want anybody to comment about the lawsuit pending litigation. But you folks are currently the only operator that's assessing a fee under the guise of something that could be collected. Is that correct or no?
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
So
We're collecting.
So based on Act 96, right, you folks are currently the only folks with reservations and booking assessing a potential collection of a fee, noting that it is still pending litigation.
I'm not sure about that. I can only speak for
you folks.
for Norwegian Cruise Line
Yes.
Holdings and our three brands. We are assessing right now on every single reservation the TAT.
As amended in Act 96.
Right, correct.
So if this was to be enacted, you folks would just go back to fix potentially what would be our new assessment?
We would refund the difference between the new assessment and what we had assessed each ticket. It is gonna be some work for the accounting department in our respective brands, but absolutely 100% we will be refunding guests the difference.
And I just wanna acknowledge and appreciate you folks are doing your best, knowing the pending litigation and are still trying to find a path forward on this, so I do wanna appreciate that.
We thank you for the raising the bill.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. Members, any other questions?
Question.
Rep. Chica.
For Department of Transportation. Thank you. On the 1 million visitors, do you know if that's gone up or gone down over the last few years?
So I want to be very clear. So 1 million is the count of times someone comes off a cruise ship and hits one of our facilities. So it's not 1 million individuals. It's probably closer to like 320,000, right? But when they go to Maui, that's a count. When they come to Oahu, that's a count. Noelilili, so on. And so the trend is definitely going up from pandemic. So from 2022 to date, we're seeing an upward trend. And then if you look at what HTA is projecting, that trend is expected to continue.
And then for the $10 fee, like looking at other jurisdictions, like what's the floor as to how much they charge and what's the highest that they charge in other
So I
countries, other states?
to what other ports charge, because a lot of times their taxes and port fees are based on different metrics and need, quite frankly. For us, we currently charge $15 per passenger when that passenger lands at Honolulu, or $8 when they land at one of our neighbor island facilities. And that's altogether, what we generate into the Harbor Special Fund to pay for infrastructure improvements and things like improving like the cruise terminal. Like we're currently fixing the air conditioner, we're putting in a second elevator at our Honolulu Harbor Pier 2 terminal, and that's how we get the funding to complete those projects.
Thank you.
And if I could just acknowledge, right, the special fund that they generate is at the expense of the operators that exist in the harbor, so that normally in the assessment and upgrades, it's not being leveraged against general fund appropriations. So the special fund really is to self-sustain the harbors, and only really at times if they ever ask for general fund appropriations, or if anything, it's authorization for bonds via the fund. So that's what they are doing. Members, any other questions?
Just one
Rep.
more
Morrow.
question, and this is just based on what your last statement, and this is just for my knowledge. He said $15 in Oahu, $8 in
At our neighbor island ports.
in the other island. So does that mean if they'd stopped at 3 different islands, it's a compounded?
Yes. So for the Pride of America, because Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings is in the room, when the passenger gets off at Honolulu, it's $15. Then they go to Kahului next, it's $8. They go to Hilo after that, $8. They go to Kona, which is not ours, so we don't assess a fee there. That's DLNR managed. And then they go to Niuewiwi, $8. That fee, however, doesn't account for the amount of time they stay in port. For example, at Kahului, they stay 2 days, but it's that one arrival fee. And so at the end, we collect that sum from the ship. However, we don't charge for double port entry. So Pride of America, it comes to Oahu twice. It comes in, takes on the passengers, comes back on Saturday, passengers get off. We don't charge them another $15. That's how our fee structure works. But the crux of our testimony is this new fee would be in addition to that fee structure we already have.
So the $10 on top of the 15 and the 8.
Correct. So it'd be 15, 8, 8, 8, 10.
Do you have any, with the exception of shore power being tossed around as an idea, what other measurements do you guys have that's gonna justify that increase?
So running a port is expensive, and paying for all the port upgrades and improvements expensive. So for a cruise ship to come into port, one, we need to make sure the port is dredged. Army Corps does some of it, we have to do the rest. We have to make sure that the pier is in good condition for the ships to tie up, which means we do every about 8 years, we're doing substructure repairs. We have to demo the cement, the fascia, we have to reinstall new rebar, and then we're putting on new fenders, we're putting on new bollards so the ships can safely pull up into berth and then tie up to the pier. In our cruise terminals, for example, at Honolulu, we are installing the new air conditioner so no one's fainting in the terminal when they're coming in and off and getting their bags. And then beyond that, we have ground transportation, right? So that paving area where the taxis and the motor coaches queue up, we've got to pave that to repair wear and tear. I mean, that's just kind of like a very high level overview of the cost required to maintain the port to support cruise operations.
Are you folks operating right now at a deficit? So $10 is quite a reach, right? I mean, if you're not operating at a deficit and still asking for that much more, wouldn't it be more feasible if we started at the $650 maybe and then revisit it?
So what I will offer to you is we're currently not operating at a deficit, but we have a series of significant improvements that we will need to take care of in the next 5 to 10 years. Specifically, we're looking at projections for sea level rise. We will need to raise some of our piers 4 feet. And that will be incredibly expensive for Staten Island, which I understand is not a cruise terminal, but because we pay for all of our harbor improvements from the same harbor special fund, and we are not general funded, and we do not have formula federal funds. We're looking at having to expend between $2 and $3 billion just to make sure Staten Island is not underwater in 25 years. So all of that together, we are looking at across our ports needing to make significant investments, and having this additional funding for crews is going to help us justify making the investments for cruise facilities. When you look at all of our operations, cargo compared to cruise makes about 15% of our operations. Cargo will always get first priority. So having this fund set aside for cruise keeps cruise-only projects on our radar.
Thank you, and I just want to acknowledge for the committee that the harbors face significant challenges in the next 20, 30 years. Kalailoa Harbor specifically is undergoing a master plan renewal, and I want to make it clear that Honolulu is the revenue generating cargo terminal, but the funds collected in Honolulu help operations on Kauai, help operations on Maui, and across Hawaii Island alike. So the same thing with Honolulu Airport, that is the largest terminal. The monies generated there really do the impact and work needed on our not so visited terminals and ports so they don't fall into disrepair. So I just want to note that for the committee. Members, and I also want to acknowledge last year we passed legislation that allowed DOT Harbor specifically to move forward with other capital advancement contracts because there is a threshold that if they should exceed, they need to come forth to the legislature for the project. So they are moving in a more quicker fashion, hopefully on these smaller projects that don't need larger investments. Members, any other questions? Thank you for the robust discussion. Thank you, Deputy. Members, like to move on to our next measure before us, our agenda item on HB 2023 relating to transportation. Beginning with 2030 model year requires new passenger vehicles to be equipped with passive intelligent speed assistance systems. Beginning 7/1/2030, make circumventing or tampering with an active intelligent speed assistance system a misdemeanor. Requires DOT to select a vendor for the installation and maintenance of active intelligent speed assistive systems. Allows maintenance of the, and allows the judiciary to impose the installation of active intelligent speed assistance systems as an additional penalty as part of a license suspension or revocation for repeat offenders of certain traffic violations. Vice Chair for testimony, please.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of leads are for DOT. We stand on our written testimony.
Thank you. Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is William Benton, an attorney from the Public Defender's Office. We just have an issue with one of the parts of the bill dealing with the issue or creating a criminal charge for tampering with the assisted speed device. We do believe that the language is quite broad, that it could cause an issue for people that have to repair or replace or even reboot the system itself. And so we proposed language that would be more specific to what we believe the legislature's intent is, which is to prevent people from tampering with the device so that they can violate the speed laws within the state of Hawaii. So we would ask that this language be added or something similar to that so that it can be used to prosecute people specifically for what is trying to be prevented, which is the violation of our speed laws. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. AAA Hawaii in support. Alliance for Automobile Innovation in opposition.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tiffany Yajima on behalf of the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. We have some concerns with this measure, specifically with respect to active ISA. Motor vehicle safety is regulated at the federal level, and we're concerned about a patchwork of regulations across all the states. NHTSA is actually actively working on this and studying ISA, so we would prefer to wait for the federal framework to be put in place. I would note that there is a Senate measure moving in the Senate related to habitual speeding that we do prefer. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Automobile Dealers Association with comments.
Aloha, Melissa Pavlicek. I'm here today on behalf of the Hawaii Automobile Dealers Association. We have 71 new car dealers in Hawaii, and our concern was really wanting to be part of this conversation should the measure be moved forward. And anytime we see requirements on manufacturers, we always worry that we might limit the availability of vehicles in the state. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Families for Safe Streets and Support. Chad Taniguchi in support on Zoom.
Hey, sorry. Thank you, Chair and members. I support the DOT's testimony to strike the passive intelligence speed assistance and amend the bill to be something that would be active intelligence speed assistance. This is for people who speed, get tickets, get their license suspended, and yet they're still gonna drive. So this way, if they're gonna drive, they can't exceed the speed limit. Thank you.
Thank you. And Smart Start LLC in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on this matter before us? Seeing that, Chair.
Office of Public Defender, I just have a clarifying question. So when you're talking about the tampering, your concern is about the tampering, do you just want it to come into alignment with the tampering of the same way you would be penalized for ignition interlock devices?
Yes, I mean, so it's specific as to what it is the intent of the legislature is, so it's not too broad. And one of the things is that the bill doesn't have any language dealing with discretion of law enforcement, discretion of prosecuting authorities. And so that's where we see issues sometimes. So that's why we're asking for language that's very exacting as to what it is you wish to prevent.
Thank you, thank you. Members, any other questions? Rep. Tachika.
For Department of Transportation, please. Thank you. In your testimony, you had specified court-ordered active intelligence speed limiters. Can you kindly explain how this would work once we look at these excessive speeders, and then how would that be implemented on roads when you travel from freeway to transitioning to residential in a school zone?
So as far as the technology, as I understand it, these systems they're supposed to be, I guess, probably reading off of maps or existing technologies that's out there to kind of notify the driver through vibration and audio when you go 10 miles over the speed limit or 10 miles under. So it should be automatically adjusting to whether you're driving on the freeway or on surface roads.
Is this a device that would have to be installed separate from your GPS assisted like
Yes, it would be something separate.
Would you know how much these typically cost or?
Larry, who is the highways administrator, maybe he knows.
And this is new technology that they implemented, or has this gone on for a while with other counties, other states?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tammy. And if I could just clarify that the systems, from my understanding, are GPS monitored, so they read off the GPS of the posted speed limit in the area. And in some similar ways, there's a governor that you cannot exceed on a vehicle's speed limit. This system would interface with the governor of the car that exists that would prevent them from speeding, from my understanding. And if there's any other follow-up that you could provide to the committee, I can disperse to as well, Deputy. Thank you. Rep. Moroka, Deputy Director Lee.
How would this affect older model vehicles? So I understand vehicles quite well. I'm a licensed mechanic. So on the newer vehicles, this GPS system would tie into the TPS, which is a throttle position sensor. And then it would slow the vehicle down pretty similar to how you use your cruise control. On older models, TBIs, carbureted, and the likes of that don't have these systems, how would that be implemented on those vehicles? Because there is no way of monitoring that. Would that be seen as an unfair assessment to if a habitual speeder is driving a 1993 Silverado and this system cannot be installed on his vehicle? How would that
Thank you, Representative. I do not know the answer to that, but I will get back to you.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none, members, like to move to the next agenda item before us, HB 2031 relating to transportation. Part 1 establishes the Administrative Hearings Division within Department of Transportation and transfers certain administrative hearing powers to the division, including matters related to automated red light camera and speed enforcement, traffic citations, oversized overweight vehicles on state highways, commercial driver's license appeals, on-demand taxi service at airports, transportation network company permit appeals, airport harbor matters, highway encroachments. Part 2, beginning January 1st, 2027, requires all marked vehicles operated by law enforcement agencies in the state and subsidized vehicles of law enforcement officers to be equipped with functioning dashboard cameras. Requires law enforcement to establish policies and procedures to submit annual reports to the legislature. Requires the Attorney General to provide oversight of the use of dashboard cameras by law enforcement agencies. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Transportation and Support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tammy Lee on behalf of the DOT, we stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Margie Lau, Deputy Attorney General. We have provided comments with our points contained in our testimony, but in our testimony, we've also included suggestions to address our concerns and comments, and we would be happy to work with the legislature on language implementing our suggestions. I'm available to answer any questions. Thanks for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Judiciary with comments.
Good morning, Michelle Acosta here on behalf of the Judiciary. Stand on our written testimony with comments and available for any questions.
Thank you. Kauai Police Department in opposition. Hawaii Transportation Association in support.
Aloha, I'm Tina Yamaki with the Hawaii Transportation Association, and we support this bill. We hope that eventually someday that we could also include those trucks that do not have the PUC or DOT numbers on them or are registered with them to also be included. Mahalo.
Thank you. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Seeing none, members, we move to the next agenda item before us. HB 2033 related to transportation requires, Part 1 requires sellers and licensed dealers to ensure motor vehicles are equipped with front number plate mounting brackets or device. Requires a licensed dealer or owner to securely fasten number plates on vehicles. Part 2 amends the traffic code referring to street racing. Part 3 expands the automated speed enforcement systems programs to high-risk locations of state or county highways as determined by Department of Transportation, appropriates funds. Part 4 allows counties to use automated license plate recognition systems to identify vehicles without current inspections, registrations, certificates, and issue citations. With fines waivable if compliance is demonstrated, establishes data privacy retention requirements, allows counties in coordination with the Department of Transportation to use red light and speed camera systems for enforcement. Part 5 authorizes the installation of cameras on the stop arm of a school bus to record footage of evidence of a violation for passing or overtaking a school bus while the bus is stopped and its visual signals are turned on. Amends the fines for passing or overtake a school bus while the bus is stopped and its visual signals are turned on. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members, DOT stands on written testimony and support.
Thank you. Department of Education in support. The Judiciary with comments.
Hello, Michelle Acosta here on behalf of the Judiciary. We submitted testimony with comments and then available for any questions.
Thank you. Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. And one individual in opposition. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing that, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, I move on to the next measures before us. Okay, so if I can clarify, so the next three measures are similar in nature. And so I believe that there are several testifiers for each measure. That's totally fine to testify on. But members, if you would allow, we're gonna go through each measure and for testimony. And I will reserve questions for all three at the end of HB 2575 for any related questions. So if we can start with the first measure, HB 1937 relating to taxes, excludes the sale of a motor vehicle to a lessor or rental motor vehicles for use of rental motor vehicle sale at wholesale, imposes the maximum allowable excise tax on the use of tangible personal property in the state. or the importation of purchase or motor vehicle by a lessor of rental motor vehicles for use of a rental motor vehicle, establishes a teacher temporary hazard pay special fund to pay a temporary hazard pay bonus to certain eligible teachers beginning July 1, 2026 until July 1, 2030, deposits additional tax revenue generated by this act into the teacher temporary hazard pay special fund. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Taxation with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Garrison Kurth on behalf of the Department of Taxation. We'll stand on our written comments providing administration, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Office of the Governor in support. OAC Teachers Association in support.
Aloha Chair and Vice Chair, Sarah Melianta-Laughlin on behalf of OSA Tui and the Hawaii State Teachers Association. So teachers do our homework. We believe closing this tax loophole will provide $70 to $80 million to the state from visitors, making this teacher special fund. Funding hazard pay for 4 years, the extra funds go back to the state, and that benefits everybody. So during the pandemic, so I'm your teacher lobbyist this session. It's my job to tell you stories from the classroom of practitioners. During the pandemic, my classroom looked a lot like this hearing room. I was teaching to middle schoolers computer science, a class of 30 where half were in person and half were online. It was something I had never done before. I had no training, I had no textbooks, I had no materials to do this, and I did it all from scratch. I had to constantly sanitize the room. I was a contact tracer. When one of my students got COVID, I had to figure out who they were sitting by, and I had to deliver that news to families. I got COVID twice. I was also undergoing fertility treatments at the time, and if you know how those work, I actually had to cancel a cycle, and I put off parenthood till after the pandemic so that I could focus on that and not worry about what we were dealing with. I had an amazing educational assistant at that time. We called them EAs. I wrote our lesson plans. I gathered our materials. I assigned her grades, and she was my co-teacher. We were in the same school, same classroom, same students, same risks to our health and safety. She was compensated with hazard pay, and I'm not mad about that. Like, it's absolutely great that our union siblings got compensated. And also, I'm glad the Department of Education decided to retroactively compensate 300 office workers at the Department of Education with hazard pay, even though teachers have not gotten it. So I'm here today asking for teachers to be honored for our service to the state, and you can help us out by supporting this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you. We got Hertz in opposition on Zoom.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Stewart Akai with Hertz, here if you rent a car. We stand on our testimony to House Bill 1937 related to taxation in opposition.
Thank you. Democratic Party of Hawaii Education Caucus in support. Enterprise Mobility in opposition.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Chris Delahaye with Semi Government Strategies here on behalf of Enterprise in strong opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Chamber of Progress in support. UPW in opposition.
Aloha Chair Kila, Vice Chair Miyake, Kamakana Kaimaloa, Government Affairs Manager for United Public Workers. You have a written testimony in strong opposition, and that is primarily because, since 2022, UPW has fought the employer for the temporary hazard pay our members earned and are contractually owed for performing their duties during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've actually invested a significant amount of time as well as resources simply to make our members whole. And we're in 2026 and we still haven't been able to resolve those grievances, particularly with the DOE as well as the executive branch. We think that this bill is ill-timed. We think that our members who have this in their contract should be paid out before measures like this are considered. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Avis Budget Car Rental in opposition.
Good morning, Lori Lum on behalf of Avis Budget Rent-A-Car. I'm testifying in opposition to this bill. We believe there's no sufficient legal nexus to justify using rental car sales tax revenues to address the teacher hazard pay. Special funds do require in statute a clear link between the program and the source of revenue. Additionally, rental vehicles qualify as capital goods. Rental contracts are true leases, both of which were confirmed by Hawaii case law. Thus, reinforces the statutory basis for wholesale treatment and acquisition while preserving the retail GET fundamentals. So finally, these measures discriminately single out one industry. Thank you for the opportunity to express our concerns.
Thank you. Servco Pacific in opposition. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. Sorry about the late testimony. What we have some concerns about doing a tax code change just for one industry when if what you really want to do is to hit the car rental industry, you should be amending the rental motor vehicle and tour vehicle surcharge tax chapter 251 instead of doing and run around the general excise tax rules like this. We also question the propriety of the special fund that's being requested, and this I think our comments are going to be common to this in the next couple of bills that are being considered. There is, as one testifier mentioned before, a lack of nexus between what the funding source is and the projected uses of the special fund. This is not a self-sustaining proposition. Teacher pay increases are normally general funded, and there's no reason why this can't be done this time as well. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. We got John Fitzpatrick in support on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. And we got 89 individuals in support of this measure. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on HB 1937?
Members will move, so just a reminder, we're gonna take up the three measures and then I'll open up for questions. HB 2586 relating to taxation applies the retail or higher general excise tax or use tax rate to purchase imports of a new motor vehicle by rental car companies, appropriates funds for position in Department of Taxation, appropriates funds to Department of Homelands to address beneficiary waiting list. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation in opposition.
The DOT sends that our representatives similar in opposition.
Thank you. Department of Taxation with comments.
Good morning again, Garrison Kirk, Department of Taxation will stand on our written comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Department of Hawaiian Homelands in support.
The department stands on its written testimony support available for questions.
Thank you. General Contractors Association in support. Hertz in opposition.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Siwa Nakai again with Hertz $1.50 rental car in opposition of HB 2586.
Thank you. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. Our concerns are pretty much the same as in the prior bill. We also think that there is a lack of connection between the bill and the new proposed special fund. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chamber of Progress in support. Hawaiian Council in support.
Natalie McKeag on behalf of Hawaiian Council, standing on a written testimony in strong support.
Thank you. Enterprise Mobility in opposition.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Chris Delaney, Shanghai Government Strategies, here on behalf of Enterprise Mobility, stand on our written testimony in strong opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Avis Budget Car Rental in opposition.
We'll stand on our testimony for the reasons previously stated. Thank you.
Thank you. Servco Pacific in opposition. One individual in support. And Kai Lorene in opposition on Zoom.
Not present.
Not present. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on this matter?
Thank you. Members, HB 2575 relating to taxation applies the retail or higher general excise tax or tax rate to purchase imports of new motor vehicles by rental car companies. Appropriates funds for position Department of Taxation. Vice Chair.
Department of Taxation with comments.
Good morning, Garrison Kurth, Department of Taxation. We'll stand on our written comments.
Thank you. General Contractors Association in support. Hertz in opposition.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, we stand on our testimony in opposition.
Thank you. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. We will stand on our testimony expressing the same concerns as the prior two bills.
Thank you. Chamber of Progress in support. Enterprise Mobility in opposition.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, Enterprise stands on this written testimony and strong opposition.
Thank you. Avis Budget, car rental in opposition.
Avis Budget will stand on its testimony in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Servco Pacific in opposition. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on this matter before us? Signature.
Thank you. Okay, so members in tandem, HB 1937, HB 2586, HB 2575. Members, are there any questions? Rep. Moroka? Okay. Anybody else? Vice Chair Miyake?
Question for Dotax, please. Thank you for being here this morning. Last Friday, the Senate committee hearing requested the potential revenue that this would, the projection of the revenue. Would you have that data that you can share with our committee?
As of this morning. I know it's being worked on, so it's forthcoming, but I don't have it today.
Okay. Would you be able, once you receive the data, would you be able to share with us so we can share with the members?
I can, yeah, when it's available. I just don't know when it'll be, but I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rep. Chica?
Enterprise, please. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
In your testimony, you expressed concerns particularly on what could be an unintentional like pyramiding structure. Can you explain to the committee what you meant by that?
Yeah, so we currently, rental car companies, when they buy a fleet, they get the wholesale tax at 0.5%. And then the retail tax is applied when they rent each car out. They pay the 4%, right? And so pyramiding means that since they're paying for the retail tax, you know, the 4%, and if you're gonna charge them the retail tax for buying a fleet of cars, then you're gonna add additional taxation.
Is the intent for rental car companies to be taxed at a single event? Because I view those as two separate kind of, right, that's how GET works, right? They're taxing like separate business transactions, but to be taxed at a single event, like, because that would be like a sales tax, correct?
Well, they're taxed twice already, but at the wholesale rate and then at the retail for each, you know, vehicle that they rent out. They're currently taxed multiple times, but this would just increase the tax at the purchase of the fleet to the 4% versus the 0.5.
So right now, during acquisition, you get taxed at the 0.5% wholesale rate. Each unit or each vehicle is treated as a separate taxable product, right, to the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then if you look at, so trying to understand like a similar industry, right? If you look at, let's say the hotel industry, when they acquire like, I don't know, like all this furniture for like the hotel rooms, like aren't they also taxed at the retail rate like versus like the wholesale rate? And then whether they charge on a single like hotel room, like for example, they're also able to pay the full GET. So I feel like the GET is meant to kind of work that way, where you are taxing on different business transactions, right? If a family buys a vehicle for their own personal use, they're taxed at the full rate. But a company that purchases hundreds or thousands of vehicles that already, you know, have revenue for each separate unit is still taxed at a rate lower than, I guess, what a family or other type of like industry would be taxed at. I'm just trying to like understand.
Yeah, well, they're wholesalers, right? They're considered wholesalers under statute, and also case law says that they are. And there's a lot of, I'm not too sure about the hotel industry, how that all works there, but a lot of industries, there are a lot of industries that fall within that wholesale definition under the statute. So that's why they're taxed the way they are taxed.
So you're saying other industries like those or contractors, they are all taxed at the wholesale rate?
The contractors, maybe the leasing companies that purchase heavy machinery, you know, and then they lease it out to contractors.
I'll hold my questions for now, thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, any other questions? If you can stay up there, Chris. Okay, so you folks are saying, right, when you're acquiring the vehicle that you're paying the wholesale rate, but you folks in Nexus are writing off the depreciation of the fleet. In the same process, right? I know you're making the argument that people who acquire these other items aren't being taxed, would not be taxed as this, but you folks in Nexus are writing off the depreciation of the vehicle while actively making profit off the vehicle.
Sorry, I'm not clear on.
So, okay, I think, and I'm trying to say, right, you folks have been, not you specifically, but I think industry, if I could just blanket, and are arguing there's no nexus for the tax because you folks operate at a wholesale and you guys should not require it at the retail rate. But the concern I think that has been brought up in testimony and for others is that you folks are actively writing off the depreciation while still actively making a profit on the vehicle. And in turn are using the, because you're arguing the, not you, sorry, the industry is arguing pyramiding.
Well, with a nexus issue, that's basically, you know, there's no connection or relationship between rental car tax revenue and, like, for instance, you know, teachers' hazard pay. That's where the nexus argument comes into play, and also DHHL. There's just no nexus or connection to that. When you have a special fund, you have to have that kind of nexus in place.
Would you be able to share with the committee how much of rental cars that you folks currently operate?
I don't have that information on me right now.
Would you be able to provide that to the committee?
I can check and see, yeah, if I can get that.
If I could ask all the folks who testified on behalf of rental car companies, if you could share with me, then I can disperse to the committee how many rental car vehicles that you folks operate in the state, just for our clarification. Okay, members, any further questions? Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you, appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, members, I'd like to move on to our next agenda item before us, which is HB 2038 relating to transportation. Requires Department of Transportation to establish a clean transportation alternative incentives program that returns funds to eligible residents of the state who meet a certain income threshold or use a certain amount of gasoline for fuel transportation. Vice Chair for testimony.
Department of Transportation with comments.
DOT stands on our written testimony providing comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Carbon Cashback Hawaii in support. Climate Protectors Hawaii in support. Climate Future Forum in support. And 22 individuals in support. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none, Chair.
Thank you, members. Any questions? Seeing none, move on to the last agenda item before us, HB 2030 relating to transportation affordability. Requires the Department of Transportation to establish a clean vehicle rebate program to provide rebates for the purchase of or lease of new vehicles, new used zero emission vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, establishes clean vehicle special fund, establishes a transportation affordability and energy security tax. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Taxation with comments.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Garrison for Department of Taxation will stand on our written testimony for any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii State Energy Office with comments.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Nicole Chernohorski on behalf of the Hawaii State Energy Office, we stand on our written testimony. I'm available for any questions from home.
Thank you. Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. Ulupono Initiative in support. Our Children's Trust in support. Present. Climate Protectors Hawaii in support. Hawaii Youth Transportation Council in support. Not present. Carbon Cashback Hawaii in support. Georgetown Federal and DC Committee and Our Children's Trust in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Devin Weil, and I'm a 20-year-old sophomore at Georgetown University and head of the Federal and DC Relations Committee, a student advocacy group partnered with Our Children's Trust, the nonprofit law firm behind the historic Navajo settlement. I'm here today in strong support of HB 2030 because my generation deserves the right to grow up in a life-sustaining climate system. Now, you might be wondering why a Georgetown student is testifying here today. Let me briefly explain. When I moved from Florida to Washington, D.C. for college, my daily life changed in a simple but powerful way: transportation. I went from relying almost entirely on gas-powered cars to using public transit. That shift saved me money, reduced pollution, and made clear how transportation policy directly shapes affordability, public health, and climate outcomes for young people, our families, and communities. In Hawaii, transportation represents the largest source of climate pollution, and billions of dollars leave the state each year to import fossil fuels. The Navajo settlement recognizes the harms from climate change, requiring Hawaii to reach zero transportation emissions by 2045, and that 81% of new sales must be electric by 2030, yet Hawaii is far behind that goal. That's where HB 2030 comes in, which is a practical near-term solution that lowers the upfront costs of electric vehicles, prioritizes affordability, and helps families save up to $5,000 while keeping energy dollars in Hawaii. Just as moving to DC showed me what cleaner transportation can make possible, I urge you to support HB 2030 so families across Hawaii can experience the same benefits. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm with Our Children's Trust as well.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Are you Durai?
Duray, yeah.
Okay, yes.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Duray Shin with Our Children's Trust, supporting the Navajo settlement implementation in strong support of this bill. One thing we really want to highlight is that the Navajo settlement was reached with the governor, the Department of Transportation, and it requires the state to achieve zero emissions transportation by 2045, and it's a court-enforced obligation. That also is aligned with state climate goals and greenhouse gas reduction goals. The amendments submitted by Earth Justice are the ones that we support. In those amendments and in the language of the bill, you see that the bill is very intentionally designed with affordability in mind, and that the fees would only be on cars above a certain sale price, and that the rebates would be for cars beneath a certain sale price. So just wanted to highlight the very intentional equity components behind this bill.
Thank you very much. Isabella Liu, another Georgetown student in support. Devin Wheel, another Georgetown student in support on Zoom. Oh. Fed Rao in support. 350 Hawaii in support, Climate Future Forum in support, Imua Alliance in support, Earth Justice in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Isaac Moriwake from Earth Justice. Standing on our testimony and support, just adding a few comments. We appreciate the support and collaboration of DOT on this measure, and we've recommended amendments attached to our testimony to promote the affordability and the equity priorities even further, as well as to fix some technical details in the drafting. So as this bill recognizes in the preamble, the reliance on gas on driving for Hawaii consumers is a huge affordability crisis, and it hits our rural and underserved communities the hardest. We're bleeding billions from our pocketbooks and our economy every year. But electrification is here, already the cheaper choice. It's the upfront costs that are still a barrier, and that's why we need this bill. This is a market-based, self-funding, and revenue-neutral solution to open up these choices. It follows proven models for point-of-sale rebates, programs at the federal level, in all kinds of states, and across the world. So here's how Hawaii can step up, keep progress going toward our electrification goals, and our decarbonization commitments consistent with the Navajo settlement, and offer real relief on cost of living for Hawaii's people. I've noticed some concerns raised in some testimony which we believe are unfounded, as explained in our testimony, but I am available to answer any questions and further explain. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify.
Alliance for Automobile Innovation in opposition.
Sorry, I'm just gonna testify. Oh, never mind.
Wait, sorry, can we get automobile and I will open up right after for further.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tiffany Ajima for the Auto Innovators. Auto Innovators support the intent of this measure, but we are very concerned. We support the rebate on electric vehicles, but we do have concerns with section 2 of the bill. Lower income households are generally more likely to buy gasoline vehicles, and because EVs cost more than their gasoline car equivalents, we really are concerned that this shifts the tax burden to those who can least afford it. So, higher income households would not only avoid the tax, but would be subsidized by those who can't afford it. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Automobile Dealers Association with comments.
Stand on our written comments, thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Climate Action Coalition in support. Leo Cohen in support on Zoom.
Hi. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Leo Cohen, representing our Children's Trust as a government affairs intern calling from Washington, D.C. I am in strong support of HB 2030. My commitment to our climate has been lifelong. I grew up maintaining my grandparents' off-grid home in rural California, where I learned to value simple things I took for granted back in the city, like the energy required for a warm shower. As I grew older, those memories were eclipsed by the reality of the climate crisis, witnessing ash fall from wildfires, enduring unbearable heat waves, drought, and seeing the mounting threats of sea level rise. While I fear losing my home to a wildfire, that loss is already a reality for a Navahine plaintiff whose home was destroyed by a climate-induced mudslide. Climate science is real, and these disasters are becoming more frequent and dire. I now focus on securing legally binding rights, a mission that is both personal and increasingly urgent. Transportation in Hawaii is Transportation is Hawaii's largest source of pollution. The 2022 Navahine versus Hawaii Department of Transportation settlement requires the state to achieve zero emissions by 2045 to protect the constitutional rights of children. HDOT's own plans shows that to stay on track, 81% of new vehicle sales must be electric by 2030, yet we are currently stuck at 14. HB 2030 is a much needed solution. It creates a revenue neutral rebate that lowers the upfront cost of non-luxury and used EVs. This ensures that working families, not just the wealthy, can access the savings of clean transportation and help us meet our legal and moral obligations to the next generation. Please support HB 2030. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. We also got 17 individuals in support and 3 in opposition. Anyone else online or in person wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? I have a question for DOT. Director Lee, Deputy Director Lee, can you comment on where DOT is at currently with the status of, where is DOT currently at with the status of implementation of our charger network?
Thank you, Chair. Are you talking about the NEVI
Yes.
program? Okay, so.
Sorry, can you clarify for the committee, NEVI?
Oh, sure. National Electric Vehicle.
Electrification?
Yes, no,
National EV.
I think it's infrastructure, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure.
Thank you. So we installed our first chargers in Kahului, and then we installed our next set at Aloha Tower. I believe the next one is going to be on Hawaii Island. Forgive me, I can't remember if it's Waimea or Kona. And then Kauai, more on Oahu. Am I missing any?
And then from my understanding, that is the way that we roll those out. Are those in conjunction with our our electric utility providers, or this independent of the electric utility providers?
It's not in conjunction, but we coordinate with them. Yes, we coordinate with them. We set the rates ourselves, and the public, charges based on.
So the ones that the electric utilities installed, that is their own version of the NEVI network.
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
Okay.
The ones that we install are ours in coordination with the providers.
members.
Okay, thank you, Director, Deputy. Any other questions? Representative Grandinetti.
I think let's go with Earth Justice.
Earth Justice, please.
Morning. Can you respond to the testimony, I think from Auto Innovators, that this bill would shift the tax burden from those who can most afford electric vehicles to those who can only afford gasoline or diesel vehicles?
They have it opposite actually. This would actually remove the barrier for lower income households to purchase electric vehicles or clean vehicles. Basically the rebate proposed here, and there's an extra rebate for lower income households of $3,000, or at least proposed in the amendments. That would basically eliminate the difference between ICE vehicles, fossil fuel vehicles, and electric vehicles. So we're actually supporting lower income households, and then they can save on the gas and the maintenance costs throughout the life of the vehicle. And then, as was mentioned in the testimony, as far as the fee on the ICE vehicles, the lower half of the market is exempt from the proposed fee. And so there's no burden on those lower income households for purchasing those cheaper and more fuel efficient vehicles. This bill is intentionally and systematically designed really to prioritize that affordability and equity aspect, and it's a real solution with thoughtful provisions throughout along those lines.
Thank you so much.
While you still up there, okay, wait. So the request to increase the LMI subsidy.
Yes.
But then we're removing the income restriction, is that your
The general rebate, that was the request by Hawaii Department of Transportation, but really the committee can do whatever it wants on, the income restrictions. Right now, there's like layers and layers of priorities for lower income households and safeguards to make sure we target that segment of the market.
Thank you.
Chair.
Rep. Tachika, did you have a question?
Do you have data from other jurisdictions that have implemented similarly, similar policies that have in fact led to increased adoption for lower income households or other users?
Yes, that data is available. In fact, California is really a success story along those lines, and they really leaned in on rebates for lower income households and really prioritizing that. In fact, the administrator of that California program lives in Hawaii. He actually works on the California program, but he's based here, and he'd be willing to speak with legislators, and he's also connected with the agencies too, and available in terms of explaining how this works and the successes for really promoting that affordability aspect.
What is the rebate amount in California?
It's about I don't know have it exactly, but it's about the same amounts as is proposed in this bill. This bill is intentionally patterned off of the California rebate programs and also the federal rebate amounts.
And to Rep. Tachika's point, if you can give the committee any relevant data on the California proposal or their program, I'd be more than happy to distribute that to the
Absolutely. Thank you. Can do.
Rep. Morrow.
Yes.
Just one more clarifying, you said the rebate put us at or around 3,000?
That's the extra rebate for low and moderate income households.
Okay, do you know how much it costs a low or moderate income household to install a charging station at home?
That charging, you can either do trickle charging, which is just right out of your home outlet, and a lot of people use that option, right? Because they charge their cars overnight.
So trickle charging basically works if you don't use your car every day. But if you use your car every day, the trickle charge isn't a good option. You need a fast charge.
It works for the daily commute. And actually that's what I use, just plug it into the home outlet.
A trickle charge and or charging station for a low income housing person, let's say in my community, that only has standard 100 amp service to their house. How does that work on a standard 100 amp service at their house? Because I've been told that it doesn't. And they have to upgrade their system to be able to install a sufficient charging.
For trickle charging?
Well, trickle charging or charging in general.
Level 1 works for like standard service, and you can do that overnight for your daily commute. And then level 2, I'm not an electrician, I don't know the requirements there, but I think for several $100s you can buy a level 2 charger, and that does it in a couple hours, right?
And that'll go on the supply that a house built in 1979.
Yeah, that I don't know. Yeah, I'm not an electrician.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Moroka. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, I'd like to recess. Reconvening our 9:30 AM agenda hearing on the Committee on Transportation. Members like to go through the different proposals that are before us, make some amendments, and I will clarify what each intent is. So members, if we can first start with HB 1709 relating to water carriers. The chair would like to recommend deferring this measure, but I just want to preface, I think it is the intent and support of the committee to see this occur and transfer, because I've been very clear. I think given the PUC's mandate to continue to regulate energy and every other utility, which I think is great, in Nexus we've lost the, not sorry, I don't wanna say lost, the support needed for other motor carriers and water carriers has not necessarily been given, I think, the full attention it needs, which is totally fine. And no fault to PUC, they if not have one of the largest tasks to do. But I think if the DOT has shown appetite and willingness to move those measures forward in the sense of administering both the water carriers and the motor carriers, I think it would behoove the legislature to not give them the support network that they need to do business in the state and to continue to stay profitable and move the things forward that they need to. So I know there's a Senate bill moving, and I'm gonna defer a House measure, but I wanna make clear that when the Senate measure crosses over, we can have more time to discuss and move it forward. So that is the intent, and I appreciate the members for working on this proposal and the introducer, and that would be the chair's recommendation at this time. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, move on to our next agenda item, which is HB 2195 related to transportation. I wanna adopt the HD1, and I just wanna thank the folks in the interim of trying to work a solution forward, because I don't wanna comment on the pending litigation, but I appreciate folks in the conversations to move something forward, to acknowledge what we can do to fortify our ports, and moving a measure like this forward, I know has concerns, but I wanna appreciate the stakeholders coming to the table, all the operators as well that came out to support a measure, because they in agreement that they want to see something, but just making sure that it can withstand the challenge. So members, my intent is to adopt the HD1 for this measure. I want to adopt the amendments requested by DOT and remove the specified per head assessment amount from the bill text. But I want to note in the committee report, DOT is requesting a $10 per person assessment, but I think as the discussions move forward, we can try to nail down a number, but I'll acknowledge that they are requesting the $10. I want to clarify in the committee report that the adoption of the DOT amendments is to address also the AG's comments and concerns. And if I could request HMSO to effect the date and blank the amendment, make blank the amendment of the per fee assessment and any tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2195, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Cochran.
Aye.
Representative Evslin.
Aye.
Representative Grandinetti.
Aye.
Representative Kitagawa.
Aye.
Representative Lachika.
Aye.
Representative Muraoka.
Reservations?
Reservations for Muraoka. Representative Pierik.
No.
Pierik, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure before us, HB 2023. I'd like to adopt the HD1 for this one. The recommendation is to amend Part 1 to conform to the Department of Transportation's testimony and recommended revisions. So that'll pretty much, so what we're doing is striking out the dealer part, and this will be for judiciary orders. Provides that Part 1 and Part 2 shall take effect on July 1st, 2030, but provided that nothing in the act shall preclude the department from the implementing of the program or portions thereof prior to the date. I want to include in the committee report a request that the DOT specify a recommended threshold of prior violations that would authorize the court order of installation of active intelligent speed assistance systems. And if they can also clarify in the next committee, I think some of the comments made by Rep. Muraoka in the case that somebody is driving a car from the land before time, how that would work. And noting that there obviously may be some challenges, but I think in the same way we run the Intoxilock systems for folks who have been deemed habitual drunk drivers, I think there is a path forward, but I think to the next committee, if the DOT and judiciary could work together on the one-off situation, somebody's driving an older vehicle. But I also want to clarify that the committee notes that I would ask the position that should be the installation of the court, that they could retain discretion of any installation at any time, including the absence of prior violations. But I note that at some point to trigger the installation, we need a head count, sorry, a number for prior violations. Then any tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO defect the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair, was the public defender's comments taken into consideration about
Oh,
tampering?
sorry, yes, if we can ask the DOT, sorry, thank you, ask the DOT to work with the judiciary and the public defender to make sure that that language in the next bill could address the concerns to make sure that the tampering is just for the device, not necessarily the tampering to exclude themselves from the device. Thank you. And I just wanna acknowledge, I think as we've seen, there will be many more measures that this committee will debate and consider regarding safety. Habitual speeding is not going anywhere anytime soon, and I don't wanna penalize, right? I think when we look for targeted approaches to make our roads safer, these targeted things have a path forward. The talk select system works, and it is a judiciary ordered device, and if this is the technology we can adopt to just make our roads that much more safer, I would like to entertain them. So any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I just have one more
Rep. Morrow,
comment.
go.
I just have one more comment, you know, I really like this bill. I really like what its intent is. I just wish we could get our court system to do their part. Because if we could punish these habitual people, that would be a big deal of deterrence as well.
And I agree, and I think in the next measure, the intent pretty much of standing up administrative hearings is acknowledging that at times our judiciary is overwhelmed and has not moved the things I think we've requested them. So when the public is asking us to note that the judiciary has those concerns, I think with the next measure, other municipalities run, and I'll comment to their point, but your comments are well taken, and I would concur. Members, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2023, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting all members present. Any reservations?
Me.
Reservations for Representative Cochran. Any no votes?
No.
No vote for Representative Keurig. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure before us, HB 2031. I would like to adopt the HD one. So I would like to adopt the Attorney General's recommended amendments in coordination with DOT's testimony as well to make sure that there's consistency and full statutory transfer to stand this up. I wanna acknowledge the concerns raised by Kauai Police Department, so at this time, we're gonna strike part 2 from the measure. But I wanna acknowledge that the dashboard camera provisions warrant future consideration, and I would defer that adopting that in the measure, so we're moving part 2. I wanna amend the bill to delay the implementation of administrative hearing frameworks until 2 years after the act's effective date, but provide that nothing shall preclude the DOT from implementing the program earlier at its discretion. And I wanna note in the committee report that the exemption from chapter 76 for hearing officers are limited to 3 years pursuant to section 7616B. Unless affirmatively extended by the legislature, and request that DOT provide analysts and recommendations to the next committee regarding the necessity of the duration of the exemption or further discussion. I wanna note in the committee report also the Hawaii Transportation Authority's request for exploring the expansion of the camera safety program for the enforcement, because but I think that also is potentially addressed in the next measure as well. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO defect the effective date. Quick comment, to Rep. Moroka's last point in commenting about the judiciary, other municipalities stand up their own divisions of traffic court. So in this sense, we're trying to stand up administrative hearings. Say what you want about this red light and speed safety program. For every one concern that has been raised, I would tell you that there are calls in my office, and I'm sure offices across yours alike, requesting the installation of the program. But because of the restrictions of the pilot and the concerns of the judiciary, we have not been able to expand it. I think the intent is to stand up the administrative hearings to really allow more of the expansion of the program. We will never have officers everywhere we need them to be, but if this is the technology that we can adopt to just make our roads that much more safer, I would like to see it. And I wanna thank the communities that have piloted the program. I know they feel at times discriminated against or targeted, but that's not the intent. The pilot was restricted to the one system with the one judiciary. But standing this up would allow us to expand the program further, target the areas that really have been deemed deadly and at times unsafe, and find a way forward that we can potentially change our driving behaviors on our roadways. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2031, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any no votes? The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure before us, HB 2033. I'd like to adopt the HD1 and I request that the Department of Transportation clarify the appropriation amounts for consideration by the next committee needed. I wanna adopt the DOT's testimony as well and recommended amendments that they are asking for. I wanna amend section 7 to clarify and ensure that the review or collections of evidence shall not capture identifiable images of students and that nothing in the act shall conflict with Department of Education's obligations under FERPA and other applicable student privacy protections. I wanna clarify that the DOT may consult with the judiciary regarding implementation, but the judiciary shall not control or delay the department's authority to determine locations or implementation timelines. I want to request that DOT further deliberate with DOE prior to the next committee hearing on the term stop arm and should there be further statutory definition. Subsection G outlines the visual signal requirements if this sufficiently addresses the placement and function of the stop arm and the feasibility and authority to install fixing camera systems on our school buses that are technically privately owned and operated under contract rather than we outright own the vehicle, and clarify the fiscal legal implications of section 5 of the appropriations of funds to DOE for the installation, noting that the school buses are technically run by contractors, not the department itself, and tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, HMSO effective date. I wanna comment, there has also been discussion of trying to make those school buses safer, and this is our attempt to expand a safety system program to stop the dangerous maneuvers that have occurred for our school bus children and operators as folks obviously are not following the law. So I know this bill has several parts, but I think largely that's the only part that needs further elaboration and discussion. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2033, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, Chair, the recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. Next measure, I'll open up with just comments on all three for 1937, 2586, and 2575. And ultimately, we're gonna be discussing the next three measures, and I want to acknowledge the fiscal outlook that we've been put in. And I want to just clarify that it is not the legislature's intent to target or feel like we're targeting or singling out rental car motor vehicle companies in any way. But as we've been asked to look at revenues and potential closing of taxation, this is what I'm putting forth before the committee for deliberating and considering, and I don't wanna potentially put any more costs on our residents. I wanna keep the tax cuts that we have enacted in previous legislature, and I wanna acknowledge that we are trying to find a way forward to address the different things that are occurring and being asked of the state, whether it's funding Department of Homeland entirely, whether it's acknowledging trying to get a special fund for paying out our teachers for the pandemic, or even in parts of the bill that is looking for specific funding for a tax inspection specialist. So because there was one part I meant to comment on the bill, is that the DOE tax has acknowledged that there are several federal contractors that have scapegoated tax law that are not paying their GDT appropriately, but have acknowledged they need staffing support. So that is also another part and intent of the measure. So for our first measure of HB 1937, I'd like to adopt the HD1, and I wanna amend section 1 and read the following. The legislature finds the fiscal integrity of the state of Hawaii depends on a tax system and entities benefiting from the state's infrastructure, workforce, and economic stability, contributing to its equitably to its support. The legislature finds that the statutory gaps involving business practices may result in unintended fiscal leakage where revenue generated in the state is not captured for public purposes. The legislature finds that rental motor vehicle lessors are currently subject to the wholesale general excise tax rate of 0.5% on vehicle acquisitions, a rate substantially lower than the retail rapid rate paid by residents. The classification has been premised on the treatment of such vehicles as inventory for lease or subsequent resale. However, testimony and industry statements indicate that rental operators may rely heavily on accelerated depreciation and asset turnover, and significant of the vehicles are resold outside of the state. Vehicles not resold in Hawaii does not capture general excise tax revenue on the downstream retail transactions, resulting in materially different tax outcomes compared to other in-state transactions. Legislature finds that inequities may also arise in government contracting sector where out-of-state contractors performing work in Hawaii fail to properly register or remit general excise taxes as required by law. An analysis of federal contract awards in the first half of 2021 indicate that approximately 35% of contracts totaling approximately $55 million are awarded to entities not registered to do business in the state, and non-compliance in this sector undermines fair competitions and disadvantages local contractors who meet their tax obligations. The legislature further finds that the legislature determines there's direct rational policy connection between closing identified The legislature further finds that tourism-dependent rental motor vehicle industry operates within the benefits of Hawaii's stable economy. And did I skip one?
1937.
And that the maintenance and the stability The maintenance of the stability depends on essential public institutions, including public education. During the COVID-19 pandemic, public school teachers continue to provide institutional and instructional services under hazardous, uncertain conditions, enabling the workforce to remain engaged and supporting the broader economic recovery. The recovery of the visitor industry, including rental motor vehicle operations, occurred within the stabilized environment. According to the purpose of this act is to 1, modify the tax treatment of applicable rental motor vehicles to ensure equitable capture of general excise tax where vehicles are not resold within the state. Appropriate funds to establish and deposit additional capture revenues into special funds to address teacher hazard pay obligations. That is the recommendation, that's section 1. I wanna know in the committee report that Dole Tax Service requested the effective date of January 1st, 2027. I wanna highlight the committee report, the testimony of Chamber of Progress regarding the comparable laws that exist. I wanna request further clarification for the next committee regarding eligibility criteria on qualified state officers and employees must have been continually employed from March 1st, 2020 through March 25, 2022, and whether employment under any duration during that time frame would suffice. Given that section 5 repeals certain provisions on July 1st, 2030, I wanna amend the measure to repeal the act in its entirety on the date instead and reenact the relevant language within sections 237-4A and 238-2 HRS to ensure statutory continuity and proper codification. I wanna request that HMSO defect the effective date and that tech amendments are needed for clarity, consistency, and style. I know that's a lot, sorry. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
I get some comments.
Rep. Morocco.
First of all, But so some of my comments is pretty straightforward. I agree with the sitting in the front row. It's GE, I believe, right? So-
UPW.
Oh, okay. Our teachers need to get paid, and it shouldn't be hinged on this. They deserve it. We should find another way and get them paid already. Number 2, coming after the rental car industry, it's gonna hurt. Not only visitors. We all here travel outer island. We have family come visit. So we gonna bear the brunt of that as well. Not to mention, we get so many other taxes being raised, the hotel fee, the green fee. Earlier on in this agenda, we looking at something else to raise. So it's a lot. It is a lot. And if we continue to increase costs, we get so many people leaving Hawaii. The trend is gonna be people not coming to Hawaii. Maybe we should look at other ways of earning money. That's my comments.
And I appreciate that, Rep. Morocco. Members, any comments, questions, concerns?
Sure.
Rep. Cochran?
And DOE tax comments, were they addressed in your long speech?
Yeah, so I noted in the committee report that Dole Tax is requesting the effective date of January 1st, 2027, but I've defected the effective date.
Oh yeah, they had a little more, I think, too, about there's already funding, I think, slated to pay for the teacher hazard pay, and this will compile on top of that and kind of throw their whole taxation filing, whatever system off. Is that what he mentioned?
I did not catch that, but I will then amend the committee report to note Dole Tax testimony for further deliberation in the next committee to make sure that there's statutory and consistency.
We can have reservations
Okay.
until that's taken care of.
Thank you. Members, further questions, comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1937, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the reservations for Representative Cochran, any other members with reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Rep. Muraoka, no vote for Rep. Perry. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next measure before us is HB 2586 relating to taxation. For this one, I'm gonna adopt the HD one. I'm also gonna amend section 1 if you folks wouldn't mind another read. Section 1's amended that the legislature finds the fiscal integrity of the state of Hawaii depends on a tax system where entities benefiting from the state's infrastructure, workforce, public services, and economic stability contribute equitably to their support. The legislature further finds that statutory gaps involving practices may result in the leakage or fiscal leakage whereby revenue generated in the state is not captured for public purposes. The legislature finds the rental motor vehicle lessors are currently subject to the wholesale general excise tax rate of 0.5% on acquisitions, a rate lower than the retail rate paid by residents, and this classification has been premised on the treatment of vehicles as inventory for lease and subsequent resale. Testimony and publicly available statements indicate that operators rely heavily on the heavily depreciated asset of vehicle turnover, and significant vehicles are sold outside the state. And further, the legislature further finds the inequities that also arise in government contracting of out-of-state contractors, as previously noted in the previous section 1 of 2021 data. And the legislature determines there's direct rational policy connection between closing the tax gaps and public expenditures authorized by the Act, establishing the capacity within DOE tax to improve compliance. And the legislature further finds that the rental motor vehicle operators within and derives from substantial benefit from Hawaii brand, including access to public infrastructure. And the beneficiaries of the Hawaiian Homestead Commission Act of 1920 are Native Hawaiians whose relationship to the land and culture forms the element of Hawaii's identity and visitor economy. And the legislature finds a rational nexus between revenue generated from tourism dependent on rental motor vehicles and the investment in the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to support beneficiary housing and reducing the wait list. Accordingly, the purpose of this act is to, 1, modify the treatment of taxable applicable rental motor vehicles to ensure equitable capture of the general excise tax revenue where vehicles are not resold within the state. 2, appropriate funds to establish an enforcement capacity within DOE tax to improve compliance of out-of-state contractors. And 3, deposit revenue generated from this modification to Hawaiian Homes Administration account to address the beneficiary wait list. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2586, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any member voting with reservations? Reservations for Rep. Muraoka, any no votes? No vote for Rep. Cochran and no vote for Rep. Perry. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next one is HB 2575 relating to taxation, applies the retail or higher general, HB 2575, I'd like to adopt the HD one. And note in the committee report that the Department of Taxation has requested an effective date of January 1st, 2027. And hold on, recess. I totally forgot to read my other amendments. Members, we are on HB 2575, but before moving forward on HB 2586, I'd like to revisit the measure previously as there were some things I forgot to add. So if I could entertain a motion for reconsideration on previous action taken before the committee.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Members, any one wishing to vote against the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open HB 2586 up back for decision making. So we're relating to taxation, HD 1, I would like to amend section 1 by adopting the amended section 1 as previously read and noted. I want to note in the committee report that the Department of Taxation is requesting the effective date of January 1st, 2027. I want to highlight in the committee report the testimony that was provided today specifically by Chamber of Progress. And I want to leave appropriation and fiscal amounts blank at this time in reference to the decision in the committee report. Request that DOTAX provides projected costs and the necessary staffing for the positions, and please and provide for the next committee also the projections that is being requested from the committee. Tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO defect the effective date. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 2586, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Reservations for Rep. Muraoka, any no votes? No votes for Rep. Cochran and Rep. Herrick. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, and thank you, members, sorry about that. So back to HB 2575 relating to taxation, I'd like to adopt the HD 1. On the committee report, the Department of Taxation has requested the effective date of January 1st, 2027. Highlight in the committee report the testimony received today specifically by Chamber of Commerce. I want to leave all appropriations and fiscal amounts blank at this time and reference the decision in the committee report requesting DOTAX provide costs for staffing positions and considerations by the next committee, and also any projections that can be reviewed by the committee. Technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO defect the effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Sorry,
Oh,
Chair,
sorry,
real quick.
Rep. Cochran.
There was a position looking to be funded in the last bill and this bill, is it the same?
I think the bills have similar requests, yes.
And it's for that, so two separate people doing two different tasks
No,
or?
same thing. It's
Same-
so it's
oh.
both trying to fund the position to do
The same position.
for DOTAX to do an investigation of potential contractors not doing registered do business applicable to state for state work.
Right, okay. I just wanna clarify.
Thank you. Members, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2575, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Reservations for Rep. Cochran. Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Muraoka and Rep. Herrick. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. HB 2038 next. Members, at this time, I'm going to defer the measure because I believe it is similar to HB 2030 and is attempting to potentially accomplish the same thing. So for that, I'm gonna defer 2038. Members, HB 2030 relating to transportation affordability. So if you folks, okay. I was the introducer of this measure, and I think there it is not a secret. I have made very clear my concerns as we've obviously are legally upheld to comply with some of the settlement agreements of Nabahine or the landmark court ruling. But I also, as the committee chair for transportation, I cannot just acknowledge problems and not potentially try to find solutions. I've been very clear that I think policy in the past, both at federal level and state level, have been very blanket to the point that in order for the folks who need it the most, they have not gotten it. And my previous comments, as I shared with you folks when we did the subsidized transit program, is that I am a proponent of targeted rebates that find a way to bring up our most vulnerable and at times the folks who would not be able to access some of these things. So my intent of the measure is trying to acknowledge that the federal funding is no longer available, but if the state was to institute something like this, we could potentially find a way for allowing the adoption of different vehicles for our families who may not have had the opportunity to do so. So for HB 2030, I want to adopt the HD1 members. I want to adopt the amendments requested by Department of Taxation to allow sufficient time to establish and operationalize the program. With respect to the proposed blank percentage rates, I want to leave the rate unspecified for further consideration and note in the committee report that the language reflected in testimony from Earth Justice for policy discussion purposes have potential rates that we could adopt, but at this time, I'm going to leave it blank. Members, I want to increase the rebate amount for plug-in hybrid vehicles to match the rebate for electric vehicles, or zero emission vehicles. And I say this acknowledging, for me, this was a provision I really supported because I acknowledged Rep. Moroka's point, not everyone is gonna have the infrastructure for the full electric vehicle. But for the adoption of plug-in hybrids, whether that's a vehicle that can go 20 miles electric range or even 30, the trickle chargers have been proven effective. And I think the adoption of the plug-in hybrid can potentially be that bridge should somebody choose to further electrify. So I wanna make sure that the rebate is the same for both. And the proposed amendment 2 of Earth Justice revisions, I wanna increase the low moderate income rebate to $2,000, but I wanna maintain the eligibility for households earning up to 200% area median income and authorize the Department of Transportation to extend the eligibility to households earning up to 300% of the area median income subject to available funding. In the proposed amendment 3 of Earth Justice revision, I wanna adopt the draft fixes identified in edit 1 and 2. And I wanna extend the rebate eligibility restriction for new vehicle purchases from 24 months to 36 months and adopt edit 3 and edit 4 accordingly. I wanna clarify that nothing in this act shall prohibit the Department of Transportation or the legislature from appropriating additional funds to initiate and administer or expand the program as needed. I wanna make tech amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and HMSO defect effective date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2030, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservations? Any no votes? No vote for Rep. Herrick. Oh, reservations for Representative Muraoka, no vote for recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. That is it for today. I will see you folks in our next hearing.